What if the most dangerous dragon in the entire world wasn't the biggest one, not the strongest looking, not the loudest, not even the one that breathed the hottest fire? Instead, it was a creature that most people had never even seen. A dragon so mysterious that for centuries, Vikings weren't even sure it actually existed. They called it the Night Fury, and Toothless wasn't just another dragon. He was the last nightmare the world had forgotten. Even if you've watched every How to Train Your Dragon movie, there are still countless secrets hidden behind Toothless. His true origin, why his species almost disappeared forever, and why everyone feared the Night Fury more than any other dragon alive. Today, we're uncovering everything. Before we even talk about Toothless, let's answer one simple question. Why is he called Toothless? Ironically, he actually has teeth, lots of them. But unlike most dragons, his teeth are retractable. Just like a cat hides its claws, Toothless can pull his teeth completely inside his mouth. That tiny detail is exactly why Hiccup gave him the nickname Toothless, but that's only his nickname. His real species is called the Night Fury, one of the rarest and most feared dragon species ever known. Just like dogs have different breeds, the dragon world is also divided into countless different species, and among them, the Night Fury sits near the very top. Many fans assume the Light Fury is simply a white-colored Night Fury. Not exactly. They're actually two different but closely related species that likely evolved from the same ancestral dragon. They share similar body structures, similar intelligence, and many of the same abilities. But over time, they adapted to different environments and developed unique traits. Even though they look similar, the Night Fury is generally portrayed as the more powerful combat dragon. Here's something most viewers never notice. Throughout the movies, you mostly see Toothless flying during the daytime, but that's only because he spends nearly all his time with Hiccup. Naturally, Night Furies are nocturnal hunters. They sleep during the day, hide inside caves, and become active after sunset, which also explains something incredibly important. Their jet black scales aren't there to look cool. They're camouflage. At night, they practically disappear into the darkness. You don't see them until it's already too late. That's exactly how they earned their terrifying reputation. This stealth ability created another mystery for generations. The Vikings kept detailed records of almost every dragon species they encountered, their strengths, their weaknesses, their habitats, everything. But when it came to the Night Fury, those records were almost empty, because almost nobody had ever survived long enough to properly study one. It wasn't until Hiccup befriended Toothless that the species could finally be documented. Researchers eventually placed the Night Fury inside the Strike class, one of the 7 major dragon classes in the How to Train Your Dragon universe. Those classes include Boulder Mystery Sharp Stoker, Strike Title Tracker. There are still dragons that don't perfectly fit these categories, but almost every known species belongs somewhere within those 7 classes, and Toothless is one of the most elite members of the Strike class. The Night Fury is considered a medium-sized dragon, but don't let that fool you. Its body measures around 28 feet long, with an enormous 45-foot wingspan. Among medium dragons, few have wings this large, which becomes incredibly important later, because those wings are one of the biggest reasons Toothless flies the way he does. Now here's something really interesting. Where did Toothless design actually come from? Most people never ask that question. According to the artists, they wanted a dragon that felt dangerous, but also lovable. So instead of copying another dragon, they looked at real animals. His sleek black appearance, glowing eyes, and powerful silhouette were inspired by real Black Panthers, not Marvel's Black Panther, the actual animal. Then they mixed in behaviors from cats and dogs. Sometimes Toothless behaves exactly like a curious cat. Other times, he acts like an excited puppy. That combination made audiences instantly connect with him. But his body structure came from somewhere completely different. One of the inspirations was the axolotl, a fascinating salamander famous for its unique appearance and regenerative abilities. The designers blended those features together, and that's how Toothless slowly became one of animation's most iconic creature designs. Then comes the biggest mystery of all. Why does the world believe Toothless is the last Night Fury? The movies blame one man, Grimmel the Grizzly. According to Grimmel, he hunted Night Furies for years, tracking them across the world until they were driven to near extinction. By the time we meet Toothless, there's supposedly only one left. But here's where things get suspicious. Before Toothless appeared, almost nobody even knew Night Furies existed. There were barely any records, barely any sightings. So how exactly did Grimmel suddenly become an expert at hunting an animal that almost nobody had ever seen? The movies never truly explain it. We're simply expected to believe his story. Now, it's certainly possible, especially because Grimmel clearly possesses knowledge of both Night Furies and even controls a Light Fury using his venom. But whether he actually wiped out every single Night Fury or simply hunted an already endangered species remains one of the biggest unanswered mysteries in the franchise. And personally, that's one of the reasons Grimmel has always felt like an incomplete villain, because the most important part of his story was never fully told. So now we know why the Night Fury became one of the rarest dragons on Earth. But rarity isn't what made it legendary. Power did, because beneath that playful personality, Toothless is essentially a living stealth weapon. And once you understand everything this dragon can can actually do, you'll realize why almost every hunter feared encountering one. Let's start with his deadliest weapon. Most dragons breathe fire. Toothless doesn't, at least not in the traditional sense. The Night Fury fires highly compressed plasma blasts. These glowing energy projectiles can reach temperatures of nearly 3,500 degrees Celsius, making them far hotter and far more destructive than ordinary dragon fire. Instead of spraying flames in a wide stream, the Night Fury launches concentrated plasma rounds like a sniper rifle. Fast, accurate, explosive. One direct hit can tear through rock, destroy massive structures, or send even giant dragons flying. According to the lore, those plasma shots aren't actually unlimited. After firing continuously, a Night Fury is supposed to recharge before releasing another full-powered blast. The movies rarely emphasize this limitation, but it's part of the original world building behind the species, and that's only one part of its attack style. The Night Fury is also known as a dive bomber. Instead of charging straight toward its target, it climbs high into the sky, locks onto its prey, then dives almost vertically at terrifying speed before firing its plasma blast. Imagine being hunted by something you never saw that suddenly drops from the darkness faster than you can react. That's exactly why Night Furies became legends. But brute force isn't what makes Toothless dangerous. It's stealth. Night Furies are built for silent hunting. Their black scales blend perfectly into the night sky. Their wings create surprisingly little noise. Unlike many dragons that announce their arrival, a Night Fury can glide almost silently. By the time you hear it, it's already behind you. Those enormous wings also serve another purpose. They allow incredibly stable flight, smooth gliding, instant takeoffs, and razor-sharp aerial control. Toothless can change direction in midair almost instantly without losing speed. Very few dragons can match that level of maneuverability. Then there's one ability that most movie-only fans completely miss: echolocation. Just like bats use sound waves to navigate in total darkness, Night Furies can map their surroundings using sonar-like pulses. The films barely focus on this, but several expanded stories and reference material confirm this ability. It allows them to hunt efficiently inside caves, through darkness, and even when visibility becomes almost impossible. For a nocturnal predator, that's an enormous advantage. Then comes one of the craziest powers ever introduced: invisibility. During the Hidden World, Toothless briefly demonstrates an incredible ability. By absorbing electrical energy from lightning, his entire body becomes superheated. That heat bends light around his scales, making him nearly invisible for a short period. It's one of the rarest abilities ever shown in the franchise. However, this isn't something he can spam during every fight. It consumes an incredible amount of energy. According to the lore, using this ability can drain nearly 90% of a Night Fury's available energy. It's essentially an emergency move, a last resort when survival matters more than stamina. Another unique trait, his teeth. Unlike almost every other dragon, Toothless can completely retract them. The films never explain a direct combat advantage, but it's an exclusive biological feature unique to the species, and it's one of the many reasons Hiccup chose the name Toothless. Then we reach what may actually be the Night Fury's greatest weapon. Not plasma, not speed, it's mind. Night Furies rank among the smartest dragons ever discovered. Their intelligence goes far beyond instinct. They solve problems, learn from experience, adapt to completely new situations, and even analyze strategies during combat. Throughout the trilogy, Toothless constantly demonstrates emotional understanding, decision-making, and independent thinking that rivals human intelligence. He's not simply obeying Hiccup, he's making his own choices. That's an enormous difference. This intelligence becomes even more obvious in the second movie. Instead of blindly following the Alpha Dragon, Toothless shows the ability to resist control, adapt, and eventually challenge for dominance himself. That leads us to another incredible transformation: Alpha Mode. Normally, Alpha Dragons are gigantic creatures capable of controlling other dragons through powerful signals. Toothless isn't nearly that large, but during the climax, he unlocks a unique alpha state. His dorsal fins begin glowing with blue energy, his body radiates overwhelming power, and he displays a level of dominance capable of standing against dragons far larger than himself. He doesn't become physically gigantic. Instead, he proves that leadership isn't measured by size. It's earned through strength, willpower, and intelligence. Of course, none of this would matter without speed. And speed is where the Night Fury becomes almost unfair. Its streamlined body, massive wings, flexible tail, and specialized flight control fins allow movements that most dragons simply can't perform. Sharp turns, instant acceleration, mid-air recovery, perfect balance. Everything about the Night Fury is built for aerial superiority. Some sources even suggest it can briefly break the sound barrier during extreme dives. Whether every version reaches that speed or not, one thing is undeniable: very few dragons can even keep up with Toothless once he decides to fly seriously. By this point, it's obvious why so many hunters considered the Night Fury almost impossible to kill, fast enough to disappear, smart enough to outthink enemies, powerful enough to destroy almost anything, and stealthy enough to attack before anyone even realizes it's there. But every legend has a weakness, and surprisingly, Toothless has far more weaknesses than most fans realize. After hearing everything the Night Fury can do, it's easy to believe Toothless is almost unstoppable. But here's the truth: the very abilities that make him one of the strongest dragons alive also create some of his biggest weaknesses, and that's what makes Toothless such a compelling character. He isn't invincible, he's simply honestly, incredibly dangerous. Let's start with the biggest limitation of all: energy. Unlike massive dragons built for long wars, the Night Fury is designed for short, explosive battles. Every plasma blast, every high-speed dive, every impossible aerial maneuver burns an enormous amount of energy. That means Toothless can't fight at maximum power forever. If he's forced into a prolonged battle, his stamina begins to drop much faster than larger dragons. He's the definition of a glass cannon, devastating in short bursts, but vulnerable if the fight drags on. His most powerful ability comes with an even greater cost. Remember the invisibility technique from the hidden world? While it makes him nearly impossible to detect, it also drains almost all of his stored energy. According to the lore, using that ability can consume close to 90% of his available power. That's why Toothless doesn't rely on it in every battle. It's an emergency weapon, not a standard attack. Then comes one of the deadliest weaknesses in the entire franchise: Dragon Root. Most movie fans never hear about it because it barely appears in the films. But in the expanded universe, Dragon Root affects nearly every dragon species. For Night Furies, it's even worse. Exposure can send them into an extremely deep sleep, not for minutes, but potentially for days. Once unconscious, even the world's fastest dragon becomes completely helpless. Another terrifying weakness comes from the Deathgrippers. Their venom is powerful enough to control dragons, and Grimmel weaponized it perfectly. Throughout the hidden world, he repeatedly uses tranquilizer darts created from Deathgripper venom. Even Toothless, one of the strongest dragons alive, can be completely immobilized with a single successful hit. That's an important reminder. Sometimes intelligence, speed, and power don't matter. If the enemy already knows exactly how to exploit your weaknesses, then there's something even more dangerous. The Night Fury has no regenerative ability, unlike creatures that can regrow lost limbs. If Toothless loses part of his tail or seriously damages one of his wings, it doesn't simply grow back. That's exactly what happened in the first movie. When Hiccup accidentally damaged Toothless's tail fin, he lost the ability to fly properly. Without Hiccup building the artificial tail, Toothless likely would have remained grounded forever. And for a dragon whose greatest strength is flight, losing that ability is almost a death sentence, which also means, despite all his incredible powers, ordinary weapons can still be deadly. A blade, an arrow, a well-placed spear, or modern weapons if they existed. The Night Fury isn't immune to physical damage. His greatest defense has never been durability. It's avoiding the attack entirely. If something manages to hit him, he can absolutely be injured. Climate is another hidden weakness. Grimmel even hints that Night Furies are naturally adapted for warmer environments. Their bodies aren't built for prolonged exposure to extreme cold. While they can survive harsh conditions for a time, freezing climates place enormous stress on the species. It's another reason why their natural habitat likely exists far from permanently frozen regions. So if the Night Fury has all these weaknesses, why is it still considered one of the greatest dragons ever? Because true strength isn't measured by raw power alone. It's the combination of intelligence, precision, speed, adaptability, and perfect timing. Toothless doesn't win because he's the biggest. He wins because he almost always makes the right decision at exactly the right moment. That's what separates the Night Fury from nearly every other dragon in the franchise. Among the entire Strike class, the Night Fury sits at the very top, and if you ranked every dragon in How to Train Your Dragon, Toothless would almost always land somewhere in the top 5. Not because he's invincible, but because he's one of the most complete predators ever created, fast enough to outrun danger, smart enough to outthink it, and powerful enough to end the fight before most enemies even realize it has begun. Maybe that's why Toothless became so much more than just another movie dragon. He became the heart of the franchise, a creature who looked terrifying but turned out to be fiercely loyal, a dragon feared by the entire world, who trusted a single human enough to change history forever. And honestly, that's what makes Toothless unforgettable. Now I want to hear your theory. Do you really believe Toothless was the last Night Fury? Or are there still others hidden somewhere beyond the hidden world? Drop your theory in the comments, because sometimes the best stories are the ones the movies never fully answered.